you're one of those people who's been biding their time until stuff's getting back to normal, I'd say probably this is your moment to start looking into where you're going to be off to. Now is a pretty decent time to get away. Travel is about as normal as it's been for quite some time. So if you're double vaccinated, you no longer need to take a pre-departure test before coming back to the UK. So this is one you have to take 72 hours before flying home. This was one that could catch you out and mean you'd have to quarantine while abroad. So it's good news for the holidaymaker that has gone. The PCR test on day 2 after arrival back is going to turn into a lateral flow test from October the 29th. So that'll be a good thing for families. It'll mean that the testing is slightly cheaper. Lateral flow test will cost around 30 quid, which is considerably less than the PCR. In terms of destinations available, just a few months ago, it was just Gibraltar and Iceland were pretty much the only places you can go. Now we've got France, Spain, Portugal, Greece, all of the favourites are available. So in that sense, there is a normality to the list of where you can go. Unfortunately, if you are not double vaccinated, your options are slim and things will not seem normal at all. You have to quarantine when you come back to the UK, regardless of where you're travelling from. You have to take that pre-departure test. You have to take 2 tests after arrival back. The government is clearly trying to use travel as the thing to persuade people into getting their jab. So anyone who's been keeping tabs on the travel updates during the pandemic will be familiar with air bridges, bubbles, travel corridors, task force, watch lists. We've had all of these new terms we've had to get to grips with. I've got no doubt as an editor on the travel desk there'll be more of this to come. But the fact that the government is merging the green and amber lists to a kind of broader you can go here list is a good sign. It shows they're trying to simplify things for travellers. But in terms of will it stay like this, that's from our end. But what we don't know is what other countries will be imposing on us. So as we know, if there's a huge outbreak of COVID in the UK, or if, for example, there's a new strain such as Delta, which came to the UK earlier in the year, we've seen other countries shut up shop and say no entry to Britain. So while it's good news from our own domestic travel point of view, you can come back fairly easily now without quarantine and not too many tests, we don't know what other countries are going to impose on us in the future. I would say yes, absolutely. If you're one of those people who's been biding their time until stuff's getting back to normal, I'd say probably this is your moment to start looking into where you're going to be off to. Losing that pre-departure test that you have to take before coming back to the UK really removes a lot of the stress and anxiety that people have been worried about in terms of going overseas. And in terms of this time of the year, autumn is obviously a wonderful time to be getting away. City breaks on the continent could be a good option for you. I mean, we're hearing from people who have been to Paris and Amsterdam that the cities are quieter than they've been for a long, long time. In terms of flight prices, not too bad at the moment. I'm flying this evening, in fact, to Poitiers in France. My return Ryanair flights were £21, which is kind of similar, really low pre-pandemic levels. Hotels around the world are generally keeping prices similar kind of level to what you'd expect, maybe even a bit lower to try and lure people back in. Tour operators and tour companies are generally keeping prices fairly on the level. But what we're hearing is as of next year, when people have that bit more confidence that travel is okay again, prices could start creeping up again. Just this week, Michael O'Leary from Ryanair came out saying that travellers can expect to see flight prices going up in 2022. So in terms of today's changes of countries coming off the red list, Turkey is really the headline news there. Before the pandemic, 2.5 million Britons travelled to Turkey in 2019. Probably got about another month of sun there if you wanted to get over for October half term. Other countries of interest is Egypt and Kenya, 2 African countries that have come off the red list. A bit further afield, you've got Pakistan and Bangladesh, and if you were after a bit of winter sun, you could look into the Maldives, Sri Lanka or Oman, which are all also now off the red list. Cruising is back, and cruising is also a really good way to travel for people who are a bit nervous about going away. Very contained, they've got all of their COVID protocols nailed. And going into the winter, we're talking about Caribbean cruises, which are obviously fantastic. You'll get a bit of sun on your back. I went to St. Lucia last year and it was probably the warmest welcome I've received going anywhere in the world. They are desperate for people to come back. I'm sure you'll receive the same if you head off to the Caribbean this winter.